My boyfriend of 6 months, I just found out, is married. He completely lied to me and said he was not in a relationship with his wife for over 20 years. He definitely pressured me into a physical relationship, but I felt like he was too good of a match to pass up. Once we were physical, though, he became distant and dismissive of me. Everything was about his schedule, and if he couldn't make it work, he would just blow me off. Finally, I got a message from his wife saying she saw. I was texting him and asked me if I was trying to date him. I almost laughed out loud because it seemed so outrageous, since this man did not strike me as someone who was being deceptive. But something just didn't sit right with me. I confronted him about it, and he told me it was a crazy ex who wouldn't leave him alone. I decided to block the number and chalk it up to just a crazy ex, but then when I went to see him off on a business trip, she showed up and he hustled me out his front door while I sat in my car confused. She came to the front door and crossed her arms and stared me down. It was the scariest thing I had ever experienced. It almost did reinforce the fact that she was some crazy ex. He met up with me for lunch a couple weeks later and explained that she was trying to bring things to move and do his house, but that they weren't living together. And he was ending things with her for good. I went to his house about a week later, and that's when I feel like my rose colored glasses came off. There were ladies' shoes by the front door, and when he was showering, I went into his second bedroom. Snooping is a questionable act, but I felt sick to my stomach, and my intuition was screaming at me to listen to it. Her clothes were in the second bedroom, along with the shovel sheets, and I found a long black hair in his bed. I was completely disgusted with myself, and with the fact that I didn't trust my gut whenever I felt like something was wrong. When I confronted him again, he basically said, "That's my girlfriend, and I already told you about this," which is another lie, because I feel like he's just been lying to me this entire time and can't keep them straight anymore. I basically told him I was done with him, and then I messaged her and apologized and let her know everything that was going on, and I even sent her screenshots. I guess my question is, was that wrong of me to reach out to her? I didn't really do it to hurt her, but I know that she was affected by this deception, whether intentionally did it or not, which I must enforce it was not intentional. I would never do that to another human being, and I think it's a sickening behavior, especially a grown man in his 50s. I just thought it would be better to be honest, even if it was hurtful, because it's the right thing to do. And I'm trying to lead a better life with accountability and less blaming of other people. So let me have it, Reddit. What do you think? Am I a harlot, or was I completely manipulated? I feel so upset by everything. Ada for telling my girlfriend I'm bothered by the way she and her family treat their house staff. 25M, dating this girl, 24F, for about 5 months. I knew her family was well off based on the stories she told me about her upbringing, but I didn't get a chance to meet her parents until this week when we all went to their beach house to spend a few days and celebrate her father's 60th birthday. The house wasn't just huge, but it also employed a staff of about 8 people. I was never used to being served like that, and I witnessed some behaviors from my girlfriend and some of her family towards the workers that made me feel uncomfortable. Some examples. A, after our first night, I heard her mother tell one of the housekeepers to clean the bedroom. My girlfriend and I were staying in. I told her mother everything was in order and that I already made our bed before leaving. Her mother then told me, in the presence of the housekeeper, that I shouldn't bother because that's her, the housekeeper's, job. B, the other morning my girlfriend and I woke up after everyone else had their breakfast. I went into the kitchen to grab some coffee and saw the cooks were already starting to prep for lunch. So I told them that I didn't want to bother them and made the coffee myself. My girlfriend came into the kitchen moments later and saw me making coffee. Later that day, she complained to her mother, without even asking me how things came about, that the cooks left me to make my own coffee. I had to explain everything. C, on her father's birthday, they had a fancy dinner with some other guests that came just that day, and some of the staff was made to stand in the room with their backs to the wall as we sat at the table and ate. It was like some Downton Abbey shit. I kept my mouth shut for the entire trip, but as soon as we came back, I couldn't hold it any longer and told my girlfriend it made me really uncomfortable to see how she behaved towards the staff and also gave some examples of instances when I felt her parents were rude to them. My girlfriend didn't take this well. She said that I'm the AH here for judging their lifestyle. In her mind, we had a perfect week together, and I was withholding my judgment until I could unleash it all on her. I don't think I'm an AH for speaking my mind. My son got married a month ago, and ever since then, tensions have been high with my wife and her parents. My wife and I married after the death of my first wife. Our son was 6 when she died, but our relationship had been over for a couple of years before she passed. We had stayed legally married for a while and tried to keep up pretenses for the sake of our son. But we both met people we wanted to be with, and then my first wife died. I continued to see my wife, the woman I'd met and wanted to be with. But I did not introduce her to my son for another year, and I saw her far less for several months, while I focused on my son and helping him through the loss of his mom. My son was 7 when he met my wife, and I admit my wife and I married quickly. He was a few weeks shy of 8 years old, and he struggled with my wife being part of our lives. He was still in therapy, but we also did some group therapy together with a different therapist. He was respectful to her, but emotionally distant. He was not affectionate and did not love her. Over time, she did take on more parental responsibility, but we didn't jump straight into that. I didn't marry her to pawn my son off on someone else like some men do. I was always engaged in my son's life, and I always parented. He always turned to his grandmother, his mom's mom. He would call her regularly and would turn to her if I wasn't around and he was upset about something. He would see her as often as he could, and eventually, per the advice of the therapist, and after talking to my wife about how she was struggling doing all the parental things, but him being emotionally distant with her, I decided she should try to fill more of a friend slash aunt kind of role and not that of a parent. She wasn't okay with it at first, but then admitted it would wear on her if he never returned her love or see him as a mom to him. And he was clear in therapy that he didn't want her as his second mom. He wanted nobody as that. Fast forward to the wedding, and during the toasts, my son thanked me and my wife and his grandmother. And he mentioned his mom and how she was always his number one, but how after she died, his grandmother was the most important woman in his life until he met his wife, and how they both loved her. My wife became very upset upon hearing this. She told me she wanted to leave once the speeches were done. I told her I didn't want to leave my son's wedding. She asked how I could stay when he showed how much he doesn't really value her or love her. She left. I stayed, and she ended up at her parents' house. When I got home, she told me she felt abandoned, and her parents told me I was a bad husband, and I should have put my son in his place and told him only one living woman deserved to be declared the most important woman in his life, besides his wife. And that was my wife. They feel I should have left with her because the ceremony was over, and it was just the reception. I mean, no. I won't make this super long. My mom died when I was 5, and my dad remarried when I was 8, and I met my stepmom when I was 7. She loves me. I love her. But we don't see our relationship the same way. She sees me as her son, but knows I don't like calling her my mom, so she'll say I'm her bonus son, and she calls herself my bonus mom. The term never worked for me because I don't think of her as one of my moms. I think of her as my stepmom, and to me, our relationship isn't the same as the one I would have with my mom. I don't really want that with her. I try not to get too annoyed by the whole bonus son mom thing because I don't want to be a dick to her. But I did express once or twice that I didn't really see the term being fitting for us. My stepmom's sister is also a stepmom, and she has a stepdaughter around my age, 15M me and 16F her. My stepmom's stepniece hates her stepmom, though, unlike me. She really resents that she wants to be close to her, and she'd rather have a distant relationship with my stepmom's sister. My stepmom's sister also uses bonus mom, bonus daughter. So last weekend we were at my stepmom's parents' house, and my stepmom's stepniece and I were hanging out, and she was venting about her stepmom and saying how much she hates the term bonus mom. She said it made her want to puke. I admitted I didn't like it either, and I didn't think it fit my relationship with my stepmom either or how I saw her. She asked me why I don't make a bigger fuss about it, and I told her I'm trying not to hurt my stepmom's feelings, but that I hate how it sounds like I see her and accept her as a second mom. Basically, when that's not what I think of her at all. My stepmom and her sister heard us talk, and my stepmom was really upset about it. She told me she knows she wasn't there since day one for me, but she loved me and I lost my mom when I was so little that she feels like I should be more okay with having a second mom. She said she never wanted to replace my mom and has always tried to help keep my mom's memory alive. She told me that alone should make her second mom, aka bonus mom material. She also told me she didn't know how much therapy I would need to make me open to that. And she wasn't even sure if I wanted to be open to letting her into that mom role. And she felt like I could be a lot kinder about all this when she has poured her heart and soul into raising and loving me. My dad told me not using the bonus mom title was bad enough, but to say it doesn't fit for me is so cruel when my stepmom has done everything to be a good mother to me.